Welcome to the Oscar nominations reaction for 2024. I've got my little plastic Oscar with me, which is usually over my shoulder. My mother can be weird sometimes, but yes, we are here to talk about the Oscars. It is about 20 minutes away from the 2024 Oscar nominations announcement. And yeah, there's a lot of things which seems to be set in stone. I mean, this definitely seems to be the year of Barbenheimer. But there are other things that I want to look out for. I have got my fingers crossed that All of Us Strangers manages to get something. I really doubt it will. But I did really like All of Us Strangers. The Tunisian film Four Daughters, I hope, gets into documentary and international feature. But again, very unlikely to happen. One of my strongest hopes is that the Polish film The Peasants gets into animated feature as well. That is a stunning animated film, but I really think that the commercial crap you get from America is most likely to take up all the slots with the addition of Hayao Miyazaki in what is supposed to be his last film. Oh, and while we're on animation, I mean, one film that has absolutely no hope of getting nominated but was on the eligible features list is an animated feature by the Latvian-born animator Signe Bauman, My Love Affair with Marriage. A few years ago, she did a film called Rocks in My Pockets about her and all the generations of her family going back, their struggles with depression and mental health, and even suicide. And this one is about societal expectations about getting married and not actually wanting to do that. So yes, if you do get the chance to check out the animated feature My Love Affair with Marriage, do recommend that one. The only below the line categories which I have a strong opinion on is, I think, The Zone of Interest should win for Best Sound. That is a film which is entirely about sound. I actually watched that at the London Film Festival, and it was the only time I've ever seen the sound designer up on stage for the Q&A. And he was talking alongside the composer Mika Levi about how they had created two separate films, essentially. One was the film you saw, while it was their job to work on the film you hear. Because, I mean, the whole point of The Zone of Interest is that they are ignoring what is happening just over the wall in Auschwitz. They are hearing these things, and it is affecting them in different ways, but it's not affecting them very much. So, yeah. The Zone of Interest is all about sound, and I really, really hope it wins. It's probably going to get a nomination, but Oppenheimer and even Maestro is supposed to be a bigger contender than The Zone of Interest, but that's one I've got my fingers crossed for. And the other below the line category I've got a really strong opinion on is costume design, which is probably going to go to Barbie, but I really, really hope it's Poor Things, because some of the costumes in Poor Things were extraordinary. So yeah, that's one I've got my eye on. Speaking of Poor Things, it's going to be interesting seeing if both of the supporting actor contenders get in, both Mark Ruffalo and Willem Dafoe. Depending on which awards show they've been voted on, I mean, sometimes Dafoe's got in and Ruffalo hasn't, sometimes Ruffalo's got in and Dafoe hasn't. I don't think both of them have been nominated at the same time. I mean, it's difficult when you're kind of splitting the vote like that. So that's going to be an interesting thing to keep an eye on. Yeah, for once, as I'm recording this, I've basically seen all the major contenders. I mean, I've still got a few documentaries to tick off the list. I've still got a few international features to tick off the list. Oh, and I haven't yet watched the Disney animated film Wish because eventually I want to do a reaction video to that. But I think basically everything else that's got a legitimate chance of getting a nomination, I think I've seen, with the possible exception of Ava DuVernay's Origin, which might sneak into a category or two, but I haven't seen that yet. But other than that, I think I've basically seen all the films that are strongly going to get nominated. So that almost never happens. There's usually at least sort of 3 or 4 which I haven't yet seen at this time of year by the time the announcement is made. I mean, I've got my YouTube set up, 15 minutes away. With Zazie Beetz and Jack Quaid, that's an interesting combination of people. Oh, Eileen is another film which would be cool to see get some nominations, but I don't think that's going to happen. That was a film I did appreciate. Thomasin McKenzie in leading actress and Anne Hathaway in supporting actress. But also, if the Academy decides to go for one of those performances, which is a very, very background role but has one killer speech, Marin Ireland, who is an actress I've never heard of before, but she has one scene in Eileen. I mean, she's in the whole film. There's one scene in particular, which is just, where did that come from? That was extraordinary. So yeah, Eileen's another one I'd kind of like to see get in. Oh, the songs from Flora and Son, I hope, get in, because I've had a quick listen to the strong contenders, and some of the songs that got submitted and didn't even get into the 15 film long list. There's some really, really good stuff there. I mean, the song from Dungeons and Dragons that plays over the end credits, that's amazing. The song that plays over the end credits of Nimona is excellent. The song that plays over the end credits of The Peasants, I mean, yes, it's in Polish, but it sounds awesome, and that didn't even make the 15 film long list. The 2 songs from Flora and Son did make the cut, and I don't think either of them are going to get in. I think the most likely one to get a nomination will be The High Life, because that's the big performance at the end. But I think the better song is one from earlier, which also got on the 15 film long list, Meet in the Middle. So that's something I'd like to happen, but probably won't. Diane Warren's going to get a nomination for their song from Flamin' Hot. It's actually kind of sad at this point. I mean, Diane Warren, what is it, 27, 28 nominations I think she's had for Best Original Song and never won. She got an honorary Oscar last year, but she keeps on getting nominated, and the song from Flamin' Hot, sung by Becky G, managed to make it into the 15 film long list for original song. So yeah, Diane Warren's probably going to get another nomination, even though it's not a great song. Yeah, Napoleon. That's an interesting one. When you hear that Ridley Scott is doing a biopic of Napoleon starring Joaquin Phoenix, you're thinking, oh, well, that's going to get 10 nominations easy, but I'd be surprised if it got any. I mean, maybe technical stuff like costume and editing, maybe. Yeah, Napoleon was a bit of a disappointment. I actually quite like Napoleon. I thought, yeah, it's a bit overblown. It's a bit bombastic. But, I mean, Ridley Scott knows how to direct a battle scene. I mean, there's some really, really good battle scenes in Napoleon and some really good emotional moments, some relationship moments between Joaquin Phoenix and Vanessa Kirby. So, yeah, Napoleon. I'm surprised that's probably not going to do as well as it maybe should. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is going to win animated feature. But as I said, I think The Peasants deserves it. And even out of the films that are probably going to get nominated, I think The Boy and the Heron might be better than it. Yeah, another disappointment was Saltburn. I think that's possibly a case of the sophomore slump, because Promising Young Woman was just so brilliant, and everybody thinks, oh, what's Emerald Fennell going to do next? And Saltburn was okay for what it was, but basically you're doing a riff on the talented Mr. Ripley, essentially, and that's what you choose to make your second film as. I mean, Barry Keoghan might get in. Unlikely. I think most likely is Rosamund Pike for Best Supporting Actress. That is a possibility, and I think she'd kind of deserve it. I mean, she was one of the highlights, certainly, of that film. I mean, this completely oblivious, privileged character. I mean, claiming to be the inspiration for common people and things like that. So yeah, I wouldn't be upset if Rosamund Pike got in. I think there's some pretty strong contenders. Yeah, May December is another one that I would be surprised if it got anything. I mean, Todd Haynes is one of those directors who tends to get into these discussions, but Charles Melton. I mean, the community, the punditry community, are really, really into Charles Melton for Best Supporting Actor in May December. And yes, I thought he was good, but I don't necessarily think he's on the level of getting an actual nomination for Best Supporting Actor. I mean, I have my little spreadsheet up, so I will instantly know if anything's been missed. I'm using, as ever, the list from goldderby.com. Their punditry seems to be the industry standard. And I've got a list of all the contenders and everything that they think is going to win. So, yeah, that's going to be real-time reactions to things that potentially get missed. I mean, because they always do miss some. I mean, like last year, it was The Whale was not getting best adapted screenplay. That was a real shock, and not getting best picture for that matter. That was the one that really, what the fuck. But yeah, there's always surprises. I mean, you can say all you want. I mean, there's a whole industry. I mean, basically year round saying what's going to win the Oscar, what's going to win the Oscar, what's going to win the Oscar, and you can never tell. You really can't. I mean, like the BAFTA nominations came out a couple of days ago, and Killers of the Flower Moon did not do well at the BAFTA. So is the same pattern going to be felt here? And actually, one thing that is in the back of my mind is that one huge shock from was probably close to a decade ago now. It was the Lego Movie. The Lego Movie, everybody assumed it was going to win the animated feature Oscar, but it didn't even get nominated. And the thought was that one of the reasons why the Lego Movie didn't get the Oscar nomination for Best Animated Feature is that the Academy voters didn't want to vote for a film which was essentially a toy commercial. And that's potentially why the Lego Movie didn't get nominated. So, if that mentality has maintained over the it's about 10 years now, since the Lego Movie came out, if that mentality has maintained, how's Barbie going to do? Because we all assume, because of Barbenheimer, that, world meme, that internet of Barbenheimer, which I was privy to as well. I mean, that was the cover art of my podcast, my audio podcast that week, was, half of Cillian Murphy and half of Margot Robbie. So I bought into the whole Barbenheimer thing as well. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the Academy will, the AMPAS will. How's Barbie going to do? Potentially, I think there is a scenario where Barbie just doesn't do anything, or certainly doesn't do as well as everybody expects it to. I think that is a possibility. I don't think it's a very likely possibility, but it's something that potentially could come up. So that's another thing to keep an eye on.
Live from Beverly Hills,
Okay,
California.
here we go.
Please welcome the president of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences.
Last year they did it from
Janet
London.
Yang.
They had Priyanka Chopra Jonas and Nick Jonas
from
in
Los
London,
Angeles, and for
which is
those
sort of
who
like
are watching around the world, good
1:30
afternoon
in the
and good
afternoon,
evening.
whereas
Welcome
it's
to one of the most
5:30 in the
exciting
morning in
days
Los
of the year,
Angeles, and yet
the
they're doing it.
Oscars nominations announcement.
For Best Performance by an Actor in a Supporting Role,
Supporting actor.
Sterling K. Brown. in
Sterling K.
American
Brown! Okay. That
Fiction. Robert
was
De
a
Niro
real
in Killers of the Flower Moon.
last minute attack.
Robert Downey Jr. in
Personally,
Oppenheimer.
I didn't see it, but yeah.
Ryan Gosling
Yeah, Ryan
in
Gosling.
Barbie. And Mark Ruffalo in Poor Things.
Yeah, so that's the top 5 from
Next,
golddobby.com.
the nominees
And
for
for me,
achievement
Robert
in
Downey
costume
Jr.
design.
Costume
Barbie.
design. Barbie, obviously.
Killers of the Flower Moon. Napoleon.
Napoleon.
Oppenheimer.
Okay.
And Poor Things.
Poor Things, yes. And again,
The
that is
nominees
top
for
5 from
achievement
Gold
in
Derby.
makeup and hairstyling are
Makeup and hairstyling.
Golda,
Obviously, they love prosthetics.
Maestro,
Again, they love prosthetics.
Oppenheimer,
Oppenheimer.
Poor Things,
Prosthetics.
and Society of the Snow.
Yep, so that's 3 categories down, and so far Gold Dobby has
Now,
predicted them
this
exactly
year's
right.
nominees for Best Live Action Short
Have
Film.
no opinion at all on the live action shorts. Don't know them.
And The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar.
Yep, Wes Anderson's going to win himself an Oscar.
And War is Over, inspired by the music of John and Yoko.
Don't know. Jerisha and Jared Hess sound vaguely familiar, but we'll have to look them up later.
American Fiction.
Yeah.
Written for the screen by Cord Jefferson. Barbie. Written
So
by Greta
Barbie ended up in
Gerwig and Noah
adapted. There was
Baumbach.
some flip-flopping of whether it was adapted or original.
Written for the screen by Christopher Nolan. Poor Things. Screenplay by Tony McNamara. And The Zone of Interest.
The Zone of Interest.
Written by
Killers of the
Jonathan
Flower
Glazer.
Moon misses out. But American
And
Fiction.
for original screenplay, the nominees are Anatomy of a Fall, screenplay, Justine Triet and Artur Arari. The Holdovers, written by David Hemmingson. Maestro, written by Bradley Cooper and Josh Singer. May December.
Well, that's one
Screenplay by
nomination
Sammy
for
Birch.
May December.
Story by Sammy Birch and Alex Mechanic. And Past Lives.
Lives, yeah.
Written by Celine Song.
Past Lives probably, but that's a close one.
Last, before our break, the nominees for performance by an actress in a supporting role.
Okay.
Emily Blunt in Oppenheimer.
It's going to get nominated, but I didn't really
Danielle
feel it.
Brooks in The Color Purple.
Yeah, okay. Torch
America
Song.
Ferrera.
America Ferrara. Okay, I didn't think that would happen because that's one of those.
Jodie
Yeah,
Foster in Naiad.
that was an odd one there.
And Davine Joy Randall
Yeah.
in The Holdovers.
I'm a little surprised that America Ferrara made it. Okay, so we've got some, and thankfully that's the point at which my internet chooses to start buffering. But yes, we forgot some a gap. So right, the first thing that leaps out. I mean, the first thing I think you can genuinely call this a surprise is Killers of the Flower Moon misses out for adapted screenplay. That makes me a little bit concerned for Killers of the Flower Moon going forward throughout the rest of the ceremony because, as I said, Killers of the Flower Moon did not do particularly well at the BAFTA. Is it going to be the same at the Oscars? America Ferrera made it in for Barbie. And I think that demonstrates a particular type of performance which gets nominated. I mean, it's as I say quite frequently, it's as I was saying a little bit earlier with Marin Island in Eileen. It's a performance that is a background performance, but it's got one killer speech. And that speech that America Ferrera gives about feminism is a killer speech. But it's one speech. And also we have Danielle Brooks, who was expected to get a Best Supporting Actress nomination for The Colour Purple. But that's a different kind of pattern which gets you an Oscar nomination. An actress perform in a musical and have a killer belting number, either a torch song or the most prominent song in the musical, and you're going to get yourself a win for Best Supporting Actress. Now, I don't think Danielle Brooks is going to win, but in The Colour Purple, her song Hell No is the one that's most memorable. I mean, I saw that last night, and that's the one that sticks in my mind as Hell No, sung by Danielle Brooks. I mean, it worked for Catherine Zeta-Jones in Chicago. It worked for Jennifer Hudson in Dreamgirls. It worked for Anne Hathaway in Les Miserables. Christ, it's worked twice for West Side Story for both Rita Moreno and Ariana DeBose. Sing the most prominent song, get yourself a Best Supporting Actress win. It happened. So yeah, Danielle Brooks was definitely on the cards. Very disappointed that Sandra Hüller and Penelope Cruz didn't make it for Best Supporting Actress, but they were both unlikely. Sandra Hüller for The Zone of Interest and Penelope Cruz for Ferrari. I think those definitely would have been on my personal list. For Supporting Actor, Willem Dafoe didn't make it, whereas Mark Ruffalo did for Poor Things. Oh, they're back. Okay.
The Fire Inside from
Diane fucking Warren. Unbelievable. I'm Just Ken, nice.
I'm Just Ken from Barbie. It Never Went Away from American Symphony.
That was expected. Actually, listened to a bit of that earlier. That's quite nice.
Wajaji, a song
really?
from Killers of the Flower Moon.
That's surprising. But I suppose good for that.
What Was I Made For from Barbie.
Yeah, Billie Eilish gets herself another Oscar. So
Next up,
the Lenny Kravitz song from
nominee for
Rustin missed
Achievement in
out.
Music,
That's
original
interesting.
score.
And the Flora
American Fiction.
and Son. American Fiction for
Indiana
score.
Jones and the
Nice.
Dial of Destiny.
Oh, that's a woman as well. John
Killers of the
fucking
Flower
Williams. What is he, 93,
Oppenheimer
94?
and Poor Things.
And now the nominees
John
for
Williams.
Best Documentary Feature
Why? He basically
Bobby
does
Wine,
the same
People's President.
thing over and over again. Bobby Wine. That's okay.
The Eternal
Not
Memory.
necessarily expected. The Eternal Memory. Okay, this
Four
is
Daughters.
going off book.
To Kill a Tiger.
Huh.
And 20 Days in Mariupol.
American Symphony missed! American Symphony missed!
Best Documentary Short Film.
Wow!
These are
That was the pundit's favourite to win. I mean, I don't know about any of the documentary shorts, but American Symphony missed the cut.
Io Capitano, Italy.
Okay, not necessarily expected.
Perfect Days, Japan.
Wim Wenders probably going to make
Society
it.
of the Snow,
Yeah, that's
Spain.
one of the big ones.
The Teacher's Lounge, Germany.
Teachers Lounge.
And the Zone of Interest, United
Haha,
Kingdom.
France. Fucked up. They submitted the
And
Taste
for
of Things
Best
instead of Anatomy of
Animated
War, and
Feature
they
Film.
didn't cut it.
Here
make
are the
cut.
nominees. The Boy and the Heron.
Yeah.
Elemental.
Oh, okay. They
Nimona.
did send the... Yeah, Nimona.
Robot Dreams.
Okay, that's
And
a left field one.
Spider-Man.
Yeah,
Across the
Spider-Man.
Spider-Verse.
So Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles didn't make it, and the Peasants didn't make it, but that was unlikely.
Napoleon,
Napoleon? Okay.
Oppenheimer, and Poor Things.
Yeah, so no zone of interest, no the colour purple. That's
Next up,
mildly
for
surprising.
achievement in film editing, the nominees
Editing.
are
Oh, fuck's sake. Don't want any fucking advert.
and Poor Things.
Barbie didn't
And
make
for
it.
achievement in sound, here are the nominees.
Barbie didn't get editing. Okay.
The Creator,
So. Okay.
Maestro, Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning, Part 1,
Mission Impossible, really.
Oppenheimer,
Oppenheimer.
and The Zone of Interest.
Zone of Interest made it. Ferrari didn't make it. Neither did Killers of the Flower Moon.
Next, the
I think
nominees
Ferrari
for
was
achievement in visual
surprising with the
effects.
sound. I mean, that's the kind of film
The
that
Creator.
they tend to go. Yeah, visual effects. Great.
Godzilla, -1.
Yeah. Nice.
Guardians of
They
the
did go for the
Galaxy,
Japanese
Volume
one,
3.
obviously. The Marvel
Mission
movie always
Impossible,
gets in.
Dead Reckoning, Part
Mission
1.
Impossible always gets
And
in.
Napoleon.
So Napoleon's getting a few of the below the line
For
ones.
achievement in
Poor Things didn't make
cinematography,
it. Well,
the
for visual
nominees
effect.
are
And Spider-Man.
El Conde,
Okay, nice black and white
Killers of the Flower Moon,
cinematography there.
Maestro.
There's a gun there.
Oppenheimer, and
Oppenheimer.
Poor Things.
Yeah, Zone of Interest didn't make it.
For
That's
performance by
neither
an
did
actor
Barbie.
in a leading role.
Actor. Here we go.
Bradley Cooper in Maestro.
Bradley Cooper.
Coleman Domingo.
Nice.
Rustin.
The Rusting.
Paul
That's a very good
Giamatti
performance.
in The Holdovers.
Giamatti,
Cillian Murphy in
Cillian
Oppenheimer.
Murphy.
And Jeffrey Wright
Jeffrey
in
Wright,
American
yeah.
Fiction.
So Leonardo DiCaprio ends up missing the cut, and so did Andrew Scott
For
for All of Us
performance
Strangers, but
by
that
an
was never likely
actress
to
in a
happen.
leading role.
Okay, here we go.
Annette Bening in Naya. Lily
like that performance for some
Gladstone
reason. Yeah.
in Killers of the Flower Moon.
She's probably going to win, but I think Emma Stone
Sandra
should get it.
Julia
Sandra Hüller,
in
nice.
Anatomy of a Fall. Carey Mulligan in Maestro. And Emma Stone in Poor Things.
Margot Robbie misses out.
For achievement in directing, the nominees
Okay.
are Justine Triet, Anatomy of a Fall.
Okay.
Martin Scorsese,
That's
Killers
mildly
of the Flower
surprising.
Moon. Christopher Nolan, Oppenheimer. Yorgos Lanthimos, Poor Things. And Jonathan Glazer, The Zone of Interest.
Greta Gerwig misses out. As does
And now
Alexander Payne for
for
The
our
Holdovers
final
and Bradley Cooper for
category.
Maestro.
I can't wait!
American Fiction. Ben LeClaire, Nikos Paramigos, Cora Jefferson, and Jermaine Johnson, producers.
Anatomy of a Fall, Marie-Ange Luciani and David Thion.
Barbie. David Heyman, Margot Robbie,
least it
Tom
made
Ackerley,
the-
and Robbie Brenner, producers.
Made the
The
best picture.
Holdovers.
The Holdovers.
Mark Johnson, producer.
Yeah.
Killers of the Flower Moon. Dan Friedkin, Bradley Thomas, Martin Scorsese, and Daniel Lupi, producers.
Maestro, Bradley Cooper, Steven Spielberg, Fred Berner, Amy Durning, and Christy McCosco Krieger, producers.
Oppenheimer. Emma Thomas, Charles Roven, and
Yeah,
Christopher
Oppenheimer's
Nolan,
gonna win.
producers.
Past Lives, David Hinojosa, Christine Vachon, and Pamela Koffler, producers.
Poor Things, Ed Guiney, Andrew Lowe, Yorgos Lanthimos, and Emma Stone, producers.
And The Zone of Interest, James Wilson, producer.
That's basically what most of this is what Gold Derby predicted.
Congratulations to this year's nominees.
Okay, so clearly the headline is that neither Greta Gerwig nor Margot Robbie got in for Barbie, which really surprises me. I mean, picking Annette Bening over Margot Robbie for Barbie, that's a decision that really strikes me. I think Annette Bening was good in Naiad. I don't think she was award worthy. I mean, if anything, I think Jodie Foster is the bigger, well, more impressive performance in Naiad, and she did get a nomination as well. But yeah, Greta Gerwig misses, and so does Margot Robbie. And it's not even like we can claim Oscars so male, because Justine Triet made it for Anatomy of a Fall, which I think is deserving. I mean, I think she'd probably be in my top 5. I mean, obviously I haven't done the proper deliberations, but Justine Triet for Anatomy of a Fall is definitely deserving. But over Greta Gerwig? Honestly, I think I'd take Martin Scorsese out for Killers of the Flower Moon and put in Greta Gerwig. And then also we have the problem that Bradley Cooper also misses the cut for Best Director. And I thought that performance was very good. So yeah, it's a very, very hard-fought category. I mean, even Celine Song for Past Lives, I think she had a very strong shout for Best Director as well. That's clearly the headliner. Slightly less, prominent is the the documentary feature category is notoriously difficult to predict. And the list we got really did surprise me. Nobody was looking at To Kill a Tiger. Nobody was really looking at Bobby Wine, the People's President. I mean, obviously 20 Days in Mariupol was... I mean, out of this list, I think 20 Days in Mariupol is going to win that category. But American Symphony missed the cut. And everybody was just rubber stamping that as the winner of this category. And it doesn't even get nominated. Did get nominated for Best Original Song, but the actual film did not get nominated for Best Documentary Feature. And neither did Beyond Utopia, which was a frontrunner for many people, and still a Michael J. Fox movie. I mean, personally speaking, I never thought that was very likely, but people were listing it. And Four Daughters did make it. I'm really, really glad about that. In documentary and in international. So yeah, it's a double nominee. Io Capitano was a little bit of a strange one. I mean, it's a hot button issue. Did well at Venice, so not. I mean, it was. I think locked on to get us to the 15 film long list, but to get an actual nomination for Io Capitano, not necessarily expected. But yeah, The Taste of Things, the French submission, did not make it, and I really think that the committee who submitted the French nomination, the French submission to the International Feature Oscar, they thought that Anatomy of a Fall, the Palme d'Or winning film, Anatomy of a Fall, is going to get all these other nominations, which indeed it did. So, why don't we push another film? Why don't we put in The Taste of Things? Really good cast, Juliette Binoche and Benoit Magimel, directed by Tran On Hang, who hasn't directed a film in quite some time. And from everything I hear, I mean, I haven't seen it yet. It's out in a couple of weeks. But from everything I hear, The Taste of Things is a beautiful, sumptuous, romantic, swooning kind of thing. A really intense film. I mean, very much about, the passion for these two people and the passion for food. So from everything I hear, it's a good film, but you can't help wondering if Anatomy of a Fall had been in this category, would it have got nominated? I think it probably would have done. So, yeah, I think France shot themselves in the foot. And of course, this is leaving aside the part that arguably one of the best films, foreign language films, non-English language films of the year, Past Lives, is not even eligible in this category because it's an American film. And yeah, I have in my mind, I'm going to be doing a video at some point about the absurdities of the International Feature Oscar race, because I mean it's one of my things. I try and watch as many of the films as I can. I think it's 88 films got submitted in this cycle, and I've watched 26 of them. So yeah, I'm just over a quarter of them, and there's several which are scheduled to be released cinematically in the next couple of weeks. So I think I'll probably get to about half by the time it comes around. But yeah, the Taste of Things did not make it. Neither did 20 Days in Mariupol. And also Fallen Leaves didn't make it. And that was, a high-profile film. And personally speaking, I am really, really not a fan of Aki Kaurismäki, so I'm okay with Fallen Leaves not making it. But that was a little bit of a surprise. I mean, so many of these categories are exactly the top 5 that were the final lists from this morning from goldderby.com. I mean, it's getting very, very predictable. And yeah, Killers of the Flower Moon missing out for adapted screenplay, that was a surprise. But Greta Gerwig and Margot Robbie, those are big ones. And disappointing. I mean, and there's personal ones. I mean, I watched American Fiction yesterday, and I don't think Sterling K. Brown was that great in American Fiction for Best Supporting Actor. I certainly would have taken Willem Dafoe for Poor Things, Dominic Sessa for The Holdovers, Charles Melton for May December. Probably some others. I'm just scrolling down the list. Yeah, I wasn't feeling Sterling K. Brown in American Fiction, although Jeffrey Wright is excellent. I'm really, really glad he got a nomination. But Leonardo DiCaprio didn't. I mean, from really, really early in the process, it was Leonardo DiCaprio or Cillian Murphy. Those were the two that everybody assumed were going to be contending for Best Actor. Leonardo DiCaprio ended up not making the cut. And honestly, I would not take him over any of the actors who did make the list. I wouldn't even take him over Andrew Scott from All of Us Strangers, who didn't make the list either. I mean, wow, Greta Gerwig and Margot Robbie both missing. That's just a wow. Alright, I think at this point I'm just kind of repeating myself. So those are my instant thoughts about the Oscar nominations. So that is my Oscar nominations reaction, live reaction for 2024. We're going to have to see how that goes. I'm working on a reaction video to both versions of The Colour Purple, the 1985 version and the 2023 version. I reacted to those and I'm going to put them in the same video. Going to be doing the same thing with Mean Girls as well, although that's not so Oscar baity, but a film that got turned into a musical and then the musical got turned into a film. They did that with Mean Girls, so when Mean Girls comes available on home media, I'm going to be doing the same thing now, a remake reactor. When Wish, the Disney animated feature, comes out on home media, I'm going to be doing a reaction to that. And plenty of other content. I mean, I've got Charmed TV reactions going on as well if you're interested in that. And yeah, check out my channel, like, comment, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. You can check out my audio podcast as well. And I think that's all I have for you. So, all that remains for me to say is this has been a presentation of the Yay, Nay or Meh channel, and I will see you next time where I shine a light on cinema, both obvious and obscure.